Hey, what's up? It's Laura Landers, and you are listening to the Live Sick, Die Ill podcast. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about faith in Instagram. This is a topic that has, in my opinion, sort of been addressed in the past, maybe a couple of years, and it's resurfacing again, maybe because I'm diving more into the influencer realm of Instagram, but you get a lot of people hating on Christians who speak up about their faith. You get a lot of haters hating on Christians because they don't speak up about their faith, but they have a Bible verse in their caption or in their bio. Or you get the Christian hate for the people who are Christians and don't really speak about Christianity or their faith at all. So we're going to debunk a little bit, just because I am in the influencer realm and I am a woman of faith who loves Jesus, and it is a social experiment to me to see how people are structuring their brand in the faith realm. So first off, let me just say there is absolutely no judgment from what I say to what you are doing. Because, boil it down to saying it's whatever God tells you to do, because that's the ultimate saying, right? Well, God told me. Well, I can't tell you what God did or did not tell you. However, maybe God didn't actually tell you, and you're just going after something you thought God told you, or you haven't really prayed about and you just want God to tell you. There is no judgment here. This is all about understanding faith and Instagram together, understanding the realm or the spectrum of how people are influencing within their faith realm. I could go down many rabbit trails with this, but we're only going to stick to the influencer side of faith and Instagram. So I might reference other parts, but we're always going to come back to the influencer realm. So, funny enough, I haven't gotten any backlash about sharing my faith on Instagram. I am really open about it, but I wasn't always. And that was because when you hear advice from people you admire on how they structure their brand, whatever that may be, right? Whatever kind of an artist or influencer or creative that they are, if you admire them, you're not necessarily going to keep going after your faith and Instagram journey the way you were, because then you see how they're doing it and you like the way they're doing it and you want to grab a hold of that and see if it works for you, right? Sometimes it's just trial and error. So what's interesting is right now, you may have someone in mind on Instagram who, let's say, shares their faith, but in a way that you wouldn't share your faith on Instagram. And you feel as if they're doing it wrong because they're not doing it the way you would do it. This is how I used to think. In fact, I have to that's the whole baseline of judgment, right? Is they're not doing it the way I'm doing it, therefore I'm going to judge them, because the way I'm doing it, I know is right. But that doesn't mean the way they're doing it is wrong. I know. This is like a whole just bucket of, I feel, judgment mess that I feel like we need to just simmer down a little bit, if you know my SNL reference there, and maybe explain a little bit as to what is, I don't even want to say what is right or what is wrong. How to view things differently. Let's open our minds to it. So the first thing I want to share is, actually, let's call this like, I always have numbers in my list of things to share, but I'm going to precursor on my list with this. So before I got into branding, I'm really big into branding. I'm like literally branding my entire life for like the rest of my life. Like I have this business mindset of the way I envision my career to go. And that does include faith into it. I am a verbal processor. And because I am, I can't not talk about my faith on Instagram. That's like cutting off my arm and telling me that I need to pretend that I have two arms, but I just cut off my arm. So how am I supposed to make, I can't make that illusion work. It just wouldn't happen. So a long time ago, before I had my branding mindset, Jordan, my husband, he was in a band. I mean, he was in a few bands, but there was this one band he was in that he actually was writing for. So he wrote the lyrics and the you're talking, I mean, I'm not a musician, so I apologize for all my musicians who are listening. He wrote not only the lyrics but the instruments, the chord, the bass line, all the music lines. Wow, that's so bad. I sincerely apologize to my musical friends. I'm musical, but I don't write instrumental lines. Oh, dang it. I can't believe I can't think of that. So when he was telling me about that band, he was saying that he didn't want, for this band specifically, he didn't want the band to be known as a Christian band. Because in the realm of music, at least at the time, it's shifting a little bit right now in the music industry. When you are an outward Christian, it's a little bit more accepted. I mean, Kanye, Chance the Rapper, Kendrick Lamar, I could go on. There's Justin Bieber. Like, they're all openly singing and rapping about Jesus. And it's so cool. But that wasn't necessarily the case a few years ago. So when we were talking about this branding, well, when Jordan was telling me about this branding, he was telling me that at the time, and this is kind of similar in like the influencer realm, kind of any entertainment industry realm, you get the judgment right off the bat if you say you're a Christian, because you then get judged more by Christians because their view on Christianity and the way you should be representing Jesus is different from them. And two, you're getting judgment from non-Christians because then they expect your music to be watered down, not as good. Two is probably always going to be about Jesus. Like, even if your music isn't about Jesus, because you say you're a Christian band, they associate everything that you say as something that they cannot relate to if they do not follow Jesus. And that is so similar to the Instagram, social media realm, any entertainment realm, quite frequent, or honestly, it's just kind of what's the word? Like, you're digging yourself a hole just because you're telling people that you believe in Jesus and you love Jesus and you're an imperfect human being following a perfect God. And so you're trying to be like God, but you are a human, so you'll never be perfect. And there's this whole other realm of needing to understand what it's like to be a Christian. And it's hard if you're not a Christian to understand the reasons why people, I could go on and into this subject of just misunderstanding within the Christian, just being viewed as a Christian in general. So talking to Jordan about the branding with his band at the time made me think that I didn't want to brand myself as a Christian because of the backlash, the judgment, the hate, the like instant stereotype that would be put on me because I'm a Christian, like I'm too goody good, or I don't know, that I'm legalistic. And because everyone has their own view on someone who is a Christian that either hurt them, burned them, they hate the church, or if they are a Christian, Christians are still burned by churches and they still, like, they've gotten healing and gone back to church, or maybe they haven't gotten the healing, but like, so they're like looking to you to be their God. That's the issue, right? Is people who are hurting that are Christians, and you're talking about Christ, they're viewing you as the one to save them because they're not wanting to spend time with Jesus and get that true healing. So then you become the ticking time bomb to them, that if you say one wrong thing, or if you cuss, or if you judge someone else, because we're not perfect human beings, that's going to happen, then they're going to get frustrated with you. So at the time when Jordan told me all about his band branding, I decided that I didn't want to be known as someone who was a Christian, because I didn't want that stereotypical judgment. So I was trying this weird Instagram thing without Jesus. Not that I wasn't like, I hate Jesus. Jesus sucks. Go Satan. Like that's not what I was doing, but I just wasn't. And this was a while ago. Like I don't even remember when. I don't even know if we could find it. I kept up all of my Instagram posts since I started Instagram, so I'm sure you could probably tell at the beginning I wasn't, or even in the middle probably, I wasn't really talking about God. And for some Christians, it doesn't matter. They don't want to talk about God. And that might not be what you think it is. Maybe it's because they don't feel comfortable, or they just became a Christian and they don't feel like they know enough to talk about God. And so just because they have a Bible verse in their Instagram bio doesn't mean that they are hypocritical. It doesn't mean that there's just so much hate and judgment that comes from what we think it should be in the Christian arena. Yeah, I feel bad for the people that are getting the silent judgment. I would almost rather, and I'm sure I get silent judgment. I don't know, because I'm not afraid to say damn or shit or whatever. I mean, when it's appropriate, right? But even then there's some, I talk about the cussing realm because cussing a lot of people view as like, you don't have to cuss, right? There's like literally no purpose to cuss. And Jordan and I, this is sort of a side note, but it does tie in. We watched on Netflix the Nicolas Cage, he hosted the show about the history of swear words. And it is scientifically proven that if you cuss when you're in pain, it lessens the pain. I completely agree with that. And it's funny because on Instagram, people show a certain side of themselves, right? So even I censor myself to a degree on Instagram, as I'm sure you do too, whether that's you're a little bit more private about things, or you don't want to show your kids as much, or you're not showing all the parts of life that you love, or you keep your husband out of it, or right? There's just so many things that we censor. I censor making inappropriate jokes, because Jordan and I always make inappropriate jokes to one another. Like, it's so funny, and we always cuss because we can, because we don't have kids yet and we want to live our lives. Like right now, I just wanted to say, who the fuck cares? Because it doesn't affect anyone, right? Like, I still have a pure heart. Like, I used to judge people, Christians, who would cuss so hard in my early 20s. I truly did not believe that they were a good Christian because they were cursing. And God totally broke me of that. Now, I'm not saying go on and curse, because it does say in the Bible, whatever it says about not cursing. I know. We all know. It is like a known thing. I'm not trying to like condone cursing. What I'm trying to say is, when people say like, don't use the Lord's name in vain, or don't curse, or all of the don't do this, don't do that. If you are living your life, this connects to influencer stuff, I promise. If you are living your life with a pure heart, a pure motivation, you love Jesus, you're reading your Bible, praying, you have a constant relationship with Jesus. Because we are imperfect, there are things that don't matter. There are. It's like when you're in a marriage or a long-term relationship or whatever, and like it's the whole dishwasher thing, right? Like you see your husband loading the dishwasher wrong and you're like, damn, again, this is the 43rd time that I have told him how to do it and he's not doing it. And then they say, well, like in marriage counseling or whatever, which I'm a huge fan of marriage counseling. I'm not saying I don't love that, but like, they just say, well, pick your battles. You gotta pick your battles because not everything matters. If he's loading that dishwasher wrong for the 44th time, you've chosen that it's just too small of a battle compared to if he's not paying the bills, and I agree to a little extent, but I also, God bless Jordan, because at the beginning of our marriage, there were no small battles versus big battles. They were all big battles to me. I'm so sorry, Jordan. I don't know. It's like I'm like the worst. Oh man, it was a rough time at the beginning of our marriage. So all of that to say, I kind of got off on a little tangent there. You kind of have to let some of those battles that I know that you have it, all those little battles that you have going on in your mind at all times with your like moral questioning and like just your day-to-day living. You should be living your day-to-day life with the utmost excellence that you possibly can to please God. It is about pleasing God. So when you're like writing your Instagram caption or you're making content just to make content, like whether it's a video or photo or whatever, if it is not pleasing God, it is not good. It's like, I know we know this, but there are the nuances, the picking your battles in your mind of, okay, so I just said, damn. Does it make my relationship with the Lord bad? No. Okay, good. Should I get out of the habit of saying damn as often? Yeah, I could work on it a little bit. But then it gets into the psychology of how were you raised? Were you raised by parents who cursed all the time? Is it just part of your everyday living? Are you associating cursing with a bad thing? Are you associating cursing with a good thing? I'm using cursing as just an example, but this is all within the morality, the spiritual walk of being a Christian and sharing that part of yourself on social media. So just keep that in mind. It's the older I get, and maybe this is because I don't have children, the older I get, the more I realize that these things really don't matter. Like as long as you're not using the Lord's name in vain, and that does not mean Jesus Christ, Mary, Jesus, and Joseph. You know how people say that? I say that. That's not using the Lord's name in vain. Using the Lord's name in vain is saying that someone who's persecuting, can't even say that word. I apologize. Let's say that someone is being very racist and they punched a black man in the face. A white person punched a black man in the face. And they said, well, God told me to. That's using the Lord's name in vain. That's where we got to be careful of not saying that, not only in our regular lives, that's using the Lord's name in vain, but doing that on social media. It's almost easier to do that on social media because it's easier to fight with your fingers and not, there's a disconnection sometimes between you speaking to someone in person and you doing it on the internet. We've dehumanized life because we're always on social media. I'm always on social media. Always, because it's my job for me and for other people. So I have realized the psychology of it has shifted the way I deal with the world. I mean, like right now, filming this podcast, I'm not actually talking to anyone. So it's really easy for me to share my opinion on something. But if I had a panel of people talking with me right now, maybe my opinion on something that I just said in this podcast would be different. And that's just the beauty of being a human and talking with people and allowing yourself to take in other people's opinions and have it form and shape you as long as you agree with it. So I've sort of touched on some things already, but I want to keep going. So branding yourself in the faith world on Instagram or just social media in general, there are some people, and I actually know these people and I don't judge them. They are trying to break the mold of being a faith-filled social media person where they don't share their own personal journeys about their faith, but then when some current event, hot topic that's going on in the world happens, they'll share that and then get really angry really fast and curse, and I don't know, there's just like the edgiest kind of Christian you can imagine. And there was a point where I judged that person. There absolutely was. It's like they're immature. They're slandering Christians in a way, like in this weird abstract way, and they're like making us seem like we're just like everyone else. And I actually had a conversation with this person, which I think is so good. Like if you have a question about how someone is sharing Jesus on their social platforms, reach out to them with kindness and ask them, hey, it seems like you're a little angry, which we have the right to be angry as Christians. Jesus got angry. Like it is okay. But, you know, asking like, hey, I noticed you got really angry. You seemed really hot-headed. You called this person a bitch. Are you okay? Like, you know, it's just, are these, because Christians aren't perfect people. So they are just like everyone else. Christians are equal with everyone else. No one is superior as a Christian. Sometimes Christians think that they're superior because they believe that their faith is the one and only right way, and because there's so many other religions out there, they view that as wrong, and so then they just like put themselves on this pedestal because they know that they have the right faith. And whether you believe that being a Christian is the only way or not, you're still an equal with everyone else. So I find that to be really interesting. So asking how someone, I mean, I actually, now I feel like this is sort of a counseling, like therapy, how to help Christians. But in a way, sometimes Christians feel like they're leading the world morally. Not that they are, Or maybe they are, right? It's all about your perspective. But checking in on them, it's like checking in with your strong friend. You know, if you see them get a little angry, and there's a difference between them being angry and level-headed and them being angry and like only seeing red, especially if they're like calling someone a little bitch or whatever. Like, there's a difference in like if I were to be like, hey Jordan, you're being a little bitch, but like kind of in a funny way. And on social media, sometimes it's hard to read the inflection of how someone's saying something. So just checking in on them, that allows them to be held accountable. And if you do it in a loving way, then you've just like helped them either with their mental health or with them going through something difficult or, you know, whatever it may be. So anyways, I just wanted to bring a little bit of insight into the faith and Instagram realm, because there's so many different facets of a Christian and so many different facets of a Christian influencer. And it's funny because I know I'm not this way, but Christian influencers, like if you were to just think of one stereotypical Christian influencer, it would be usually a girl who, or a woman, whatever, if we want to be politically correct, a woman who has the verse in their bio, but has their butt hanging out, like on the beach. Like, I had this issue with people that actually went to my church, and like maybe a couple of years ago. And that was before I was honestly really an influencer. Like, I didn't really get it. However, so these girls were going to my church. They were part of neighborhood groups or weekly groups, you know, small groups, whatever you want to call it. Oh my God. The gathering groups. There's like so many different Christian terms for weekly groups. And then you would see them at the beach in a thong bikini, and they would post that. And that would actually make me angry at the time, because it's funny. I used to not be a modest person in high school whenever I was a competitive dancer, and we would have to wear costumes that, you know, were just like a bra and underwear, but not like a bra and underwear, like a sports bra and dance type underwear where it's, anyways, like briefs. I don't know if you're not a dancer, you might not understand that, but that was normal. Like you just don't wear any tights, like, you know, just crop top and booty shorts, and it was normal. And then I went to a college where it was so conservative. We couldn't even show our knees. Honestly, it's like kind of messed up, mind blowing. It was so conservative. But that shifted me to be more modest over time. If I didn't go to that college, I would not be as modest, which is so funny how life shapes us. But now, since I'm a little bit more modest and I view those people with their butts hanging out, I'm like, what are you doing? And they're single girls. And so I'm like, it's not even like you're married. Like, so you're attracting the wrong kind of guys, right? So I was just like thinking I'm like, you're just not making life easier for yourself. Like, why? Like, what are you doing? You're making men stumble, and right? Just this whole, I don't even think I would call it judgment. I thought that at the time I knew what was best, and they weren't doing what was best for them. And then I got into influencing, and I realized that they might have, I don't actually know, right? But they might have gotten paid to pose in that bikini to be a model. Like, their job, they were getting paid to be a model, but instead of that image being publicized in a magazine, it needed to be posted on Instagram. So I didn't know that at the time. I just was like, that's so stupid. Like, what are they doing? I don't want to see this person's ass hanging out. Like, I don't want my husband seeing that, right? You just see you just think all these thoughts. And so then you get angry at it, and then you judge. That's just like the mental trail of events. Sometimes I feel like when I talk on this podcast and I talk about the way I think, I'm like the only one, and I'm just crazy. So if you think these same thoughts, please comment, let me know, so I don't think I'm totally crazy, but I am crazy, so it's fine. And then I got into the influencer world, and you either get paid to post or you get free products and you have to post. And it is actually, being an influencer is this beautiful relationship between a brand and a creator, and working together and creating something that you both like and you both enjoy. Like, I enjoy creating and making and making the content, whether there is video or photo, and I enjoy the modeling aspect of it. Not that I'm a model, but in a sense, anyone who is an influencer absolutely is Instagram model, whatever. And there's this beautiful interaction between the brand and the influencer, and giving them something they'll love, because if they created a bikini, it's a beautiful bikini. It really is. The craftsmanship is beautiful. The time that they took to get in, whatever, is beautiful. And then for them to trust you and send it to you and have you create and you do your thing, because they enjoy the way you post your things. So they're honoring you with your creativity, and you've said yes to posting their bikini because you love their creativity, is a really beautiful thing. And that's what I didn't understand at the beginning before I was an influencer. And I still think there is a line of modesty for some people, and for some people there's not. And that, I feel, is all based off of the way that they were raised, and just the life events, the process of life, what they've been through. Maybe their mom is a model, and so they are just thinking that they're being like their mom, and she was a beautiful Christian woman, and so there's really no problem with it. So they don't have this weird conservative, modest mindset that I was saturated in for 4 years, and in a way is limiting. And so I'm slowly breaking out of that and kind of going back to my youth, and how there's just so much freedom and in designs and beauty, right? And so looking at life through the beauty lens is a little bit different than from the modest conservative lens. Everyone has their own glasses that they're going to wear. And just remembering that is critical in allowing ourselves to not judge faith influencers. So I will say, personally for me, I posted one photo of me in a lace bra. It was for a brand partnership collaboration. And when I viewed the photo as it being beautiful and artsy and tasteful, but I could absolutely see how some people would think that it's slightly inappropriate. It was just from my belly button up, and I had a shirt over the bra, but it still showed the bra. And I'm someone who wears men's clothing, right? So to show me in a bra could be alarming in a sense, or shocking to people, because number one, they don't ever see me in a bra, but number two, it's a bra. So I actually talked to Jordan about it before I posted it, because I was like, I feel a little weird, but I said yes to this brand partnership, and so I need to post this bra. It is part of the contract. And Jordan said that he had no problem with me posting it. He thought there was nothing sexual about it. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some weirdos out there who will probably still think that, and whatever, that's on them. But I kept thinking over and over and over again, which is funny because when I see other women posting bras, or just posting them in cute underwear, or posting photos of them in a bikini, I'm like, like, I just don't even think, like, I don't care. There's a certain level of me caring. I'm like, I really don't want to see your full butt in my face right now. Or even men. I'm like, I don't want to see your rock hard abs in such like high definition. Like it's almost cringy. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to see, I just don't want to see that. I'm choosing to see that because I'm on Instagram and I'm scrolling and I follow those people, right? So I could easily unfollow those people, but I like those people and I like the other things that they post. And so when I see some, body part that I don't really want to see, I just scroll faster than the other things. And you're just like, okay, fine. And yeah, they're Christians that post these, maybe risque photos. But to them, it might not be risque. To them, it might be hard-earned work. Maybe they're trying to get into bodybuilding that I don't know about. Like, you can't judge. So all of that to say, with that bra photo, it took me a long time to feel okay posting it. And to this moment, I still think it is a little too much for me. But I'm glad that I posted it because it was a learning experience about who I'm going to partner with later, what brands I'm going to partner with later. I'm not saying I won't ever do like a bikini shot or whatever. Not that it's going to be like super sexual, right? But like you can do it cute. But it's a learning experiment, and I feel like every Christian is sort of learning in the influencer realm on what their boundaries are or what their followers want to see or don't want to see. And, I think that the personal growth is beautiful, and to keep your failures, and not that my bra post is a failure, but for some reason, I'm just really conservative in the like body realm. And I'm happy with my body. So I would love to show it. But to me, I don't feel like I need to share it too much. Maybe, I don't know. That's the thing, is who knows? If I get paid $1 million to pose in a bikini, you better believe I'm going to pose in a bikini, because that money is a gift as long as I'm not selling my soul to the devil. You know what I mean? So, let's just go over some of the things that I said, just a few of them, because I always like to, recap what I've said. It kind of just helps wrap things up. So, branding yourself in the faith world is going to look different to everyone. Whether you feel like you need to not talk about Jesus so that you don't get judged, you know what? You need to do you. I can't not talk about my faith. So to each their own. Everyone's going through a different journey in their Christian faith walk. So I've been a Christian for a minute, so I feel pretty good in it. But if I was a brand new Christian, maybe not. But I'm also a verbal processor, so I have to talk about it. Don't judge people in general, number one. But also, just know there's going to be different types of people out there. So like some people are going to be like the edgy cursing Christian, and some people are going to be like the holier than thou Christians, and they're going to think that they are right. And sometimes you're going to get the judgmental Christians posting about their faith, and you're going to get the super chill, cool Christians that are talking about their faith too, but like not in a pushy, like you're wrong, I'm right kind of way, which I think is how it should be in my own personal opinion, but whatever. Balancing your beliefs and what social media culture has to say is not easy. What is it? Like, don't live life in the way of the world, but live life in the way of Jesus. You have to do that to an extent, but you also have to be up to date with the trends. Like, that is part of life to be successful. Truly. There are timeless things and classic things, but there's also trend. If you're in the fashion world, you can, if you're branding yourself as a timeless classic like Audrey Hepburn kind of person, you're the exception. Everyone else, you're going to have to sort of keep up with trends. Like, you can't not be part of the world. Jesus hung out with non-Christians. Like, that, in what I'm trying to say is that you have to be in the world. You are in the world. God made you in the world. So I just feel like someone's got to hear that right now. Not that I'm trying to preach to you or anything. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know. But you gotta just like chill out with the things you've learned in the Christian faith. Because I gotta tell you, unless you were raised in a very healthy Christian church environment, you probably didn't learn the Christian faith world correctly. So you can take the Bible in many different ways, right? That's why there's theologians that believe one thing and there's other theologians that believe another thing. But you might have been brought up in a very legalistic way. I almost feel like if you don't know if you got brought up in a super healthy Christian church environment, then you didn't get brought up in a healthy Christian church environment. I'm not saying that for sure. I'm just saying that might be the case here. So find a good church and learn new things. Be open to rewriting what God says about you and about other people and about his son, Jesus. So I feel like I was just a preacher right now. So funny. I am so far from it. You guys are like, clearly, Laura, this is brutal. There's going to be some boundaries. If you are a faith influencer, you're going to have some boundaries and live up to those boundaries. I am in this beautiful, like the best group of women that are all different types of religions, that we're all influencers and we're all doing brand deals, and they are so gorgeous, and they're like posting photos of them in bras and bikinis, and I am honestly like, you guys are so beautiful, it like hurts me. It's so good. I'm just not that way. I'm just not. I mean, I kind of am. And that's the beauty of it, right? It's like, I kind of am. So I may once a year post something a little risque for myself because it's a brand deal or because I want to feel good about myself. And that's about it, right? You got to love it all. I don't know. I don't really know. Sometimes I just feel like I'm just crazy. I feel like I'm losing my mind. You know why I feel like I'm losing my mind? Is because this topic of faith and Instagram, social media, whatever, and the faith Christian influencer has such a bad rap, and influencers in general have a bad reputation because the first round of influencers that became known were fake. But this is a second big wave of Instagram influencers that are so freaking sick. Like, everyone's so cool and so down to earth. And there are still, right before I filmed this podcast, I was on Instagram and there's this girl I went to college with and she's so rad, right? But she still thinks in the first wave of Instagram. So she's trying to influence people in the way that everyone was trying to influence people at the beginning of Instagram, which is no one on Instagram is real and people aren't sharing their struggles on Instagram and, like, stop being fake. It's like, have you seen Instagram recently, everyone's being real. Everyone's showing their struggles. Are you reading the captions? Like, everyone I follow, which is 2,500 people or something like that, is only real. Like, I don't follow fake people. And it's just interesting how on social media, you have the power to mold your community with the people that follow you and the people that you follow. It's like two different communities, and you get to choose what community you live in. So if you want it to only be Christians, which I do not advise, you can do that. Just like how you shouldn't only be hanging out with Christians in real life, you should not be only seeing Christians on Instagram. That's just my honest opinion. So I find that to be really interesting. This new wave of faith influencers has a lot of power to shift the way people view Christians. And I pray that God gives you favor in what you share. And I pray that you pray about what you share before you share it. So that if it's just like a picture of a coffee cup, whatever, but and post away. But if it's like sharing something about faith, I pray that you take a moment before you post it to make sure it's pleasing to God. Because there's this fine line of posting on Instagram for yourself, but it's also for other people. So you can't just be like, oh, I posted for me. Yeah, there is that moment. But if you're like, that's just where the nuance and the gray area is of sharing on social media, especially about faith and Jesus. It's usually for other people. And so because you are influencing other people like that, I use air quotes, because I know you're not trying to influence, you're just trying to show God's love. Just make sure you're doing it in a way that pleases the Lord. So I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please, please, please leave a comment. I'm like almost begging at this point, but I'm not. Wink, wink. Please follow us on our Instagram at Live Sick Die Ill Podcast. Leave a comment. Let me know if you like this podcast. Clearly, I'm very passionate about it. It's a world that I feel like needs to be talked about a little bit more. In fact, if you are a Christian man or woman or the in-between, and you want to talk about this with me on a podcast, especially if you live in LA, which is not limited to LA, let me know. I would love to have a conversation with you, maybe on the podcast in the future. I think that would be so good. Not that we're about to turn this podcast into a faith podcast, but in a sense it kind of already is, because we can't not talk about Jesus sometimes. So please leave a comment on our Instagram. Follow us there if you're not already. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below and subscribe to this, because we post every single week and it only helps, as you know. And if you're listening on the podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, please go ahead and review the podcast if possible. It really only takes about 30 seconds. And leave 5 stars. And if you leave 4 stars, maybe let a homegirl know before you do, so I can make it better. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Laura Landers. This is the Live Sick Die Ill podcast, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.